What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Unforgiven with TrueGameData.com. I'm going to be talking about the VLK sight today and other zoomed optics and how they can affect recoil. And yeah, I'm going to show you why I think the VLK actually increases the effective recoil of a gun at range, and going to do a couple tests to show you why that's the case, and then also talk about why or what other sights you could use and some settings you could change to maybe make it so that's not the case. So yeah, we'll get right into it. So first of all, I hope everyone didn't already know about this, because I didn't really understand this before. I just thought about it a bunch recently. So because the VLK causes a zooming effect, 3x zoom, it increases the amount you have to move your mouse versus not having the VLK on there to move the same distance on a target. So even though the distance between bullets with the VLK is smaller, aka the spread pattern on a wall is shorter, the actual recoil correction that you have to do with the VLK is more, because there's more zooming effect. So the amount you have to move your mouse to correct for that recoil as you're firing is more. So I'm going to go through some testing here to show you that that's true, using this very scientific ruler on the mouse pad approach. I'm going to do a couple spread patterns and measure how far I have to move the mouse to correct for that recoil. I chose the MG34 because it has perfectly vertical recoil, so there's no trailing off to the side effect or anything in there. But yeah, I will show you now. So this is an MG34 with maximized aiming stability, just like I always do for my recoil tests, just so it has a consistent recoil pattern. I'm going to stand the same distance from the wall. You'll see, first of all, that the recoil pattern is perfectly vertical. So I'm going to let it reload real quick, and then I'm going to measure how far I have to move my mouse. I turned down the DPI so the effect is more noticeable on the camera. I know you can't actually read the ruler, but I will measure it. So we are going from, let's put it at the top here, turn down the sensitivity, measuring from that point right there, ADS, and then move the mouse straight down to correct for the recoil all the way down to the bottom. So that was approximately 7 centimeters I had to move the mouse there to correct for that recoil. So now I'm going to switch over to the VLK and do the exact same thing with the VLK's recoil pattern. So let me switch. Alright, so now I'm going to repeat that test with VLK sight. That rest of the build on the gun is exactly the same. So I'm going to fire a recoil pattern here real quick, and hopefully it'll be a little shorter, as you would expect with the VLK. Alright, so it's a little bit shorter, just like we'd expect with the VLK sight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with the top bullet hole again, just like I did with the other iron sight version of the MG34. I'm going to line it up at the top of the ruler, turn my sensitivity down, and measure how far I have to move it to get to the bottom of the recoil pattern. And because this is zoomed, I have to move the mouse a lot further to get to the bottom, and what that translates to is that there's more effective recoil when firing the gun, and that's just because of the zoom. It's not because the VLK increases the recoil. But if I look at the measurement, that's down to about 10.5, 11 centimeters, whereas the iron sights were 7. So, I mean, that's a significant increase in effective recoil as long as you have to correct for the recoil. So if you're standing right next to somebody and you don't have to actually pull your mouse down to correct for the recoil, then it doesn't make a difference. But if you're firing at somebody that's a long way away and you have to really correct for the recoil to keep it on the target, then that's going to be more effective recoil for you to try to control. So that's just something to think about when you're using zoom sights. I mean, there's other benefits to zoom sights. Obviously, you can see your target better, and things like that. But the actual effective recoil, even though the spread pattern recoil is reduced, the effective recoil of the gun actually goes up when you increase the zoom. So something you can actually do to correct for this effect of the zooming increasing the effective recoil is you can go into your options and go to aim down sight sensitivity, which is just on the general page. Keyboard and mouse, I don't know where it is on console because I don't play on console, but you can go to ADS sensitivity multiplier for high zoom, and this is effectively the multiplier for a sight over 3.25x for how much it's gonna multiply your mouse movement by. So you can measure this, and you can change the value. So if you set it to like 1.8, you have to move your mouse 80% less to get the same amount of movement that you would have had if it was on 1. So you can correct for anything over 3.25x only. So the VLK is only a 3.0x, which I think might be why it actually has less actual recoil when shooting the wall. I think maybe because it's above this 3.25x threshold, you can't correct for it with a setting. So they may have reduced the recoil a little bit just because you can't use the setting to make it have less effective recoil like you can with other sights. I have no idea if that's true. That's just my own personal theory, but I think it might be the case. So I'm going to jump in and show you how this can work with like a Cronen C480, which has 3.5x zoom. You can actually change the setting to give yourself the effective recoil of a 1.0x or an iron sight. So, alright, so I mentioned that if you use a higher optic zoom and then you increase that ADS sensitivity multiplier in the settings, you can actually match the effective recoil of a 1.0x optic, so a red dot or iron sights, with these higher zoom optics for how much you have to move the mouse to correct for the recoil. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this is the Cronen 3.5x I'm using now, so this is over that 3.25x threshold for the setting. I'm going to shoot a full mag and do the same movement test to see how far I have to move my mouse. It should be a little more than the VLK because it is 3.5x, so it actually has more zoom, which means it would have more effective recoil. So let me just do this real quick and measure. Let me pop the cam back on so you can see. And then I'll line up at the top of the recoil, turn my sensitivity down, start from the top, and then measure straight down to see how far it takes to move to get to the bottom of the recoil pattern. Almost off my mouse pad. So that gets down to about 13 centimeters. So that's a little more than the VLK, which is what we expected. So then if I go back to the top and I go change that setting, so 13, I don't know if it's directly correlated, but 13 over 7 is like, what, like 1.8? So I don't know if it's going to be directly correlated here, but let's see. So let's make this 1.8 multiplier for high zoom, and then close this down, and then do the same exact test. Line it up at the top, zoom in, and move down, and see how far we have to move the mouse. So that came out almost perfect. That's at like 7. So you can really just do straight up math. You can say, well, if I moved 13 centimeters to correct for the recoil with the VLK and 7 without, then it's just 13 over 7 to do the ADS sensitivity multiplier. One thing to keep in mind with this is it's going to feel super weird to begin with because it's a different sensitivity, so it's just going to feel weird to you. It might not feel weird when correcting for vertical recoil because, again, it's just matching the actual value that a 1.0 zoom would have. But horizontally, it'll probably feel weird. Like, this feels super sensitive to me horizontally, just because I'm used to using optics that don't have this ADS sensitivity effect. So horizontally, it feels a little weird. I think I could get used to it pretty quick, though. Vertically, it feels fine, though, because I'm used to using iron sights and red dot sights and things like that. Vertically, it doesn't feel that strange. It would just take a little bit to get used to. But yeah. That was all I wanted to cover in this video. If you like the content, please subscribe. Come check out the website sometime. Use the Discord. We're starting to get the Discord set up so you can help find groups and stuff to play with. Yeah, all my socials are linked below, and hope to see you guys around. Thanks for watching.